The 1990 Tour de France is the 73rd in its colourful history. It comprises 22 stages and a total of 3,400 kilometres. The race starts with a prologue time trial of 6.3 kilometres at the modernistic theme park of Futuroscope on the outskirts of Poitiers. Among these huge glass structures, 198 of the world's best cyclists are waiting to start this race against the clock. Each of the 22 teams has 3 mechanics who check and adjust wheels, pedals, the tyres and the gears. One of the favourites to win the Tour de France is the PDM rider Raul Alcala of Mexico, who shows deceptive power. Alcala takes the lead with a time of 7 minutes 53.19 seconds. Gianni Bugno of Italy, the recent winner of the Giro d'Italia, expects to be one of the challengers. The Chateau d'Ax rider is a strong, stylish time trialist. But despite his style and a fast finish, his time is 21 seconds slower than Raul Alcala's and will be only the 29th fastest today. A year ago, the Tour Prologue was won by this man, Erik Breukink from Holland, another PDM rider and a teammate of Raul Alcala. But today, Breukink is below his best at Futuroscope because of a stomach virus. As he approaches the finish, his time will be outside of the best 20 riders, and that really is a disappointment. The Spaniard, Pedro Delgado, winner of the 1988 Tour de France, he'll always remember last year when he lost almost 3 minutes in this prologue time trial. He arrived late for the start, which was then in Luxembourg, but he's on time at Futuroscope. But as he approaches the finish, Pedro Delgado also concedes 20 seconds to the best time set by Alcala. Yet another race favourite is Laurent Fignon of France. The Castorama Rally team leader won the Tour in 1983 and again in '84. He was second in 1989, that famous 8 seconds margin to the American Greg LeMond. Back injuries made him a doubtful starter this year, but he still finishes 15th best. Sickness has also plagued Greg LeMond, the American who wears the yellow jersey as defending champion. But armed with the revolutionary new handlebar, LeMond scorches around the 6.3 kilometres. As he turns for the finish, there is absolutely nothing in it. Raul Alcala is just 0.05 of a second slower. Greg LeMond is on top. Thierry Marey, one of Fignon's French teammates, is not a race favourite, but he is a specialist of short-distance time trialling. He won the stage in the prologue in the Tour de France in 1986. And here, he sprints to a brilliant winning time of 7 minutes and 49 seconds. The second day of the Tour has 2 more stages at Futuroscope, a 138 kilometres road race to be followed by a 44 kilometres team time trial. Only minutes into the first stage, and there are 4 riders ahead of the race. At the front is the Frenchman Ronan Pensek of the Team Z. The Canadian Steve Bauer of 7-Eleven is at the back here, and with them is Italian Claudio Chiappucci of Carrera and the Dutchman Frans Maassen from the Buckler team. The 4 gained 10 minutes by half distance, while a crash behind splits the field. Among the fallers is Pedro Delgado himself, after trees were dragged across the road by political demonstrators. All of the riders, the mechanics fastly working with spare wheels, puts them back in the race. Delgado and the stragglers soon catch the peloton, but the leaders remain 10 minutes ahead. Bauer is riding strongly in the front group. Bauer's the best of these 4 in the prologue time trial, and looks sure now to take the leader's yellow jersey away from the Frenchman, Thierry Marey. Bauer keeps up the pace right until the final sprint into Futuroscope to keep that 10-minute margin. But as the sprint begins, he can't hold off the strong challenge from Frans Maassen, who sprints to a fine stage victory. So the buckler team of Holland score early on this year, a win for Frans Maassen, but it is the Canadian Steve Bauer who takes over the race leadership. In the afternoon, Bauer rides strongly for his 7-11 team, remembering the 1988 Tour when he lost the leader's yellow jersey in this very team time trial. Now he defends a 2-second lead over Maassen. The Dutchman's buckler team ride well, but they will finish 8 seconds slower than the American 7-11 team of Steve Bauer by the finish. The Carrera team is strong, but Kia Pucci, number 171, is struggling at the back. This team will concede 41 seconds to Steve Bauer's squad. And Greg LeMond leads the Z team. He hopes to push Pensek into the race lead. He was the 4th man in the breakaway this morning. They ride with style on the windswept course. This is Greg LeMond in 2nd place, wearing the colours of the reigning world champion, the rainbow jersey. Their finishing burst takes them to a time of 54 minutes and 17 seconds, but this is 5 seconds short of an excellent time by 7-11, and it will leave Steve Bauer in the yellow jersey. There's also a keen battle for the actual stage win, and this is headed by the Panasonic team from Holland. They used to be the past master of team time trialling, and they race home this time with the best time, 53 minutes 24 seconds. Raoul Alcala's PDM team come close, but they are slow by having to wait for the sick Eric Breking, and they finish 7 seconds short of Panasonic. So the race then moved out of Futuroscope down to the city of Poitiers, the 3rd stage heading northwest towards Brittany. It was a ride of 228 kilometres. Rain is forecast for this 3rd day of racing as the 198 riders head out of town. Then, 2 hours into the stage, the peloton is again stopped by the organisers. Another demonstration, this time by agricultural workers, is blocking the road ahead. It's decided to take a 16-kilometre diversion on narrow back roads. It works, and the demonstrators have missed out. The voice of Jean-Marie Leblanc explaining that the race is temporarily neutralised. Then the rain comes, but the speed increases. Italian Moreno Argentin makes a break, and the small group behind take up the chase. But Argentin holds on to win the stage in Nantes by more than 2 minutes lead over the pack. Argentin, in the Tour de France for the first time, continues his great season. Not everyone knows that the Italian has even been clear at all, and Castorama rally rider Christophe Leven finishes and thinks he's won. Stage 4 will take the race north across the rolling hills of Brittany. A ride now of 203 kilometres to Le Mont Saint-Michel. The start is by the cathedral in Nantes, and the sun is shining again as the riders leave town. It's a pretty route too. It leads via alongside the city's canals. To the official start, indicated here by a gendarme's flag. And Laurent Fignon, in pain after a crash the day before, is already likely to become soon one of the Tour's first casualties. It's a much younger French rider, Gilles de Lyon, of the Helvetia La Suisse team, who makes the first attack. He's joined by the Belgian Edwig van Hooijdonk from the buckler team. The pair work hard, but they are soon caught. And then there is another solo attack from Søren Lilholt of Denmark. A sprint, and it goes to Olaf Ludwig from the Panasonic team, 15 kilometres from the finish. As the pack regroup and the dangers occur, just behind the pack there is a crash and it's split into these groups. The front group of 50 pushes up the pace and fights out the finish at Mont Saint-Michel. Ludwig in green leads the charge, but he goes far too early and has totally misjudged the finish. And as the pack come to the line, it's Belgian Johan Museeuw who sprints home for the win. Ludwig finishes only third. Laurent Fignon arrived in a group over 44 seconds behind. Stage 5 is the longest stage of the race, 301 kilometres across the hills of Normandy. It wasn't to be a happy day for Laurent Fignon, who's been suffering from the early hours of the day and isn't looking forward at all to the rest of it. The Frenchman Thierry Claverola sprinting for climbing points. He does all of this before the rain actually sets in for the rest of the day. The longest stage and the wettest. The rain demoralises Laurent Fignon even more, and although his fans still write his name on the street, the two-time winner drifts to the back of the field and then finally decides to quit the 1990 Tour de France. Laurent Fignon drops away from the back of the field and searches for his team car. By the end of the day, he'd be watching the Tour de France on television. Ahead, race leader Bauer discusses tactics with his team director Noel de Jonkeren. And then he goes back up to the field. The greasy roads cause several crashes, including this one with former French champion Eric Carretou of the RMO team among the fallers. Then, with more than 70 kilometres still to race, it's the Dutchman Gerrit Zolleveld from the Buckler team who breaks away alone. He rides powerfully to gain a massive lead of 10 minutes. And by the time he reaches the finish, he is still 5 minutes clear in Rouen. Another stage win for the Buckler team. Two riders then move ahead of the pack on the rain-slick streets. And again, it's the Lotto team man, Museeuw, who's sprinting for second place. He was the winner yesterday at Mont Saint-Michel. He takes second place ahead of fellow Belgian Etienne de Wilde, while at the head of the pack, it's the East German Olaf Ludwig. On the sixth day, the riders board a plane for a 600 kilometres flight to eastern France on the German border. Race director Jean-Marie Leblanc always seems to be working. But for everybody else, including Greg LeMond, they enjoy the rest. Next day's stage 6 takes the race to the spa town of Vittel, 202.5 kilometres. It's raining again before the start, and it causes this gendarme to wave a yellow danger flag before a sharp left turn. But as the roads dry out, the speed dramatically increases. And the crosswinds cause several crashes again, including this one with rider number 68, Eric Van Lancker from the Panasonic team. He's the last to get up. And another, with the Helvetia riders Jean-Claude Leclerc and Guido Winterberg among the fallers, whereas Z-Team mechanic retrieves the bike of race runner-up Ronan Pensek. It's a painful business on these opening days of the Tour de France, but the riders usually do remount and always catch up with the field. 6 men fight out the uphill finish in Vittel, where Dutchman Jelle Nijdam gives Buckler its third stage win in this opening week with a well-timed sprint finish. Jelle Nijdam, whose father Henk was a world champion back in 1961, is a clear winner, ahead of Denmark's Jesper Skibby and the consistent Johan Museeuw.